What do you do when your faith system no longer fits? Because sometimes you outgrow it. Sometimes you graduate, you ascend, you leave the old, itchy, worn-out way, and you begin to walk in the new. Sometimes you grow. Join the conversation with me, Tony Werfel, author, speaker, teaching pastor, as we help unwrap and rebuild a faith that no longer fits. We learn to walk into the new, messy journey called life. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I hope you've had a great week so far, and I'm so thankful you joined us again. I've had some incredible things happen the last couple of weeks, and I just wanted to share them with you. See, in my community here in Orange County, we've been taking people through this series called Our Stories. And we've been able to hear people's stories, almost kind of the tune of like a Morph podcast or other storytelling podcasts. And we've picked themes, and then we've had people tell a story, and it's been so much fun. And so we ended the series with talking about what it means to be in a relationship. And so my partner and I, we decided to close this series. So I want to welcome to the podcast my partner in crime for 13 years, Danielle Werfel.
Hello, everyone.
We just woke up a little bit ago, so we kind of have morning voices. So we started planning what this thing could look like, and I don't know, did you have fun with it?
Yeah, I got some good feedback.
We thought it'd be interesting, and instead of doing the typical, we're experts on what it means to be in a relationship, we did it a little bit differently, and because again, we all have journeys, and no relationship is the same as another one. So we actually talked about what it looks like to be in struggle and be in disagreement, to watch the other person change and grow and morph into the person that they are, and what it means to be frustrated and all of that. And it was a little scary. So Danielle and I, we stood up front in front of a bunch of people, and we just talked about our marriage in 4 different parts. We talked about dating, the wedding day, post-wedding, and what it was like having children. And so it was a lot of fun. It was really interesting, kind of scary. I had to. It was a little bit scary to sit there and watch as Danielle was pretty brutally honest about some, not all, of our struggles that we've gone through. A bit more open about our frustrations, our failures. I was just thinking, that day, what kind of responses did you get from people as far as this was the thing that you talked about in your relationship that connected most with us?
I think most of the feedback that I got was about they were thankful that I was so honest about our struggles, that we were real, that we really shared challenges that they could see themselves in their own marriages. So it was interesting to me how many conversations it seemed to start between other couples, and couples who have been together a lot longer than us had some similar challenges that they felt like they wanted to try working through as well.
Yeah, I had a bunch of people too say, I'm so relieved to hear someone else say their relationship isn't perfect. Even had that one guy come up and say, I'm not even dating someone, he said, but man, it just takes a lot of pressure off. I thought that was kind of interesting. Yeah, we just took some moments, and we were willing to be a little more open and honest, and really, really good feedback. And so, again, Danielle kind of went through, went through a lot.
I talked about some of the challenges that we faced, watching me falter, struggle with past cycles, worried, scared, angry about moves that we made that I felt were made with the wrong motivation.
Sorry, our cat just got up on top of our desk.
I talked about how the two of us at various points had shut ourselves off from the other person. We weren't emotionally available to the other person, and I think that influenced our kids as well, which was hard at times.
And again, we talked about how that affected our kids, our community. I have to be honest, I was sitting there in the front watching you, and I hadn't actually read what Danielle was going to say that day. And so I'm sitting there, and it was so interesting to hear her begin to this is how I felt, and this is what Tony was doing. And I'm sitting there like, oh man, like what are people thinking? And now, like in that moment, I realized they're gonna realize I'm not perfect. But it was almost like a breath of fresh air. Like I can relax. I can be.
You can be more real.
Yeah, be a little more real. I don't have it all together. So Danielle and I, we just wanted to share a couple pieces of advice we've learned, because we last week we talked about the wisdom tradition, and so as we've been growing and changing and moving, realizing that again, the person I married is not the same person that she was all those years ago. We've changed, and that's because it was your sister on our wedding day. She said, "You don't marry the person, you marry the journey."
Yeah, the journey that you're about to embark on, whatever that may bring, ups and downs, but realize that you will both change. So if you marry the person you think you know right now, you might be setting yourself up for some disappointment.
just a little. Yeah, and that's where what we were able to talk about that weekend was just, the person you're partnered with is going to change, and for the better and for the worse. And so if you are committed to the journey, though, that's when real life begins. That's when the expectations, when they don't meet them, it doesn't completely fall apart anymore. So here's a couple pieces of advice that we would like to share that we're learning. And again, we're not experts. We're figuring it out, stumbling, fumbling as we go. But here's just a couple things we're learning right now.
The first one is know their wounds. Exodus 23:9 says, "You shall not oppress a stranger, since you yourselves know the feelings of a stranger, for you also were strangers in the land of Egypt." We all have experienced brokenness. It's been said that we are all the products of our childhoods, meaning our past experiences are who shape us, are what shape us. And so whether it's the small daily or the large unexpected stressors of life, they tend to dredge up old wounds. And if we never take the time to face those wounds and allow them to breathe and heal and to let go of them, they'll find a way to worm back into our current relationships when we're under stress.
I can think of a million times this has happened.
Yes.
And it's so true. Those stressors, whether it's kids or it's work or whatever, they do tend to pop up. And if your partner doesn't know those issues or those wounds that you have, it's very easy to begin blaming and being angry with one another, and things just escalate. Yeah. And so because of that, we all need self-healing. We all should find a way to lovingly encourage each other, whether it's our partners or our friends maybe, to take time through small groups, or even if you need professional help. We need to encourage each other to find the healing that we need to get past some of those old wounds, because in the presence of unhealed wounds, we can be emotionally triggered in really unpredictable and irrational ways, which can be really hurtful to the people around us. So once we can sort through some of that old baggage and allow healing to take place, we no longer react unpredictably. And our lives can calm down a little bit. That was a lot of our issues. I went through some really good therapy a couple years ago now, and I was just able to move through a lot of those things that I just kind of pushed off. I'd had so many little issues that kind of kept building up, and it was so good for me to be able to move through with a professional to be able to help me kind of, okay, this is why this person just seems to draw out the very worst in you, and it's because this person was like this person and this person in my past, and when I was able to identify that, those wounds began to heal some, and Danielle knowing that has actually made a huge difference in the way we communicate, the way we argue.
I think it has helped calm you down at times where you could be triggered, and so now we can have a more rational conversation and a calmer one, and neither one of us gets upset anymore. which makes communicating a lot easier.
Yeah, I agree with that. Another thing we've learned is how to communicate more effectively. And again, I can't tell you, communication is so hard sometimes to, you have this thing in the back of your mind, and how do you communicate it? You're frustrated, whatever it is. If you're desiring them to put away their socks, then you're going to have to communicate that effectively. And so Danielle and I, we have this constant, I used to pull out my drawers and I'd forget to close them on the dresser. And I remember, like, for some reason, she would get so mad. But I learned, like, okay, it's not a big deal to me. Like, I don't care that they're open a little bit, but it took a little while for you to communicate why that was frustrating, or just, right?
Maybe. Yeah. So I was just mad.
Yeah, so in a relationship, you have to learn how to communicate expectations, because I think often we have these expectations in our mind, and we assume our partner is going to know them, but learning to communicate that this is an expectation I have of you. Danielle's dad, he's like this. I mean, he's kind of gross with your mom's moves. I remember when we were first dating, he would like whisper little things in her ear during like the dirty parts of movies or whatever. and I remember it just being so cute. But again, where am I going with this?
I think that I thought you were going to say that he's good at doing a lot of things.
Oh, right. Yes, that's right. Good. Thank you. I got caught up in like his dirty talk. Yeah, he would open the door for Danielle's mom, or I don't know what happened with our dog just now. he would open the door for Danielle's mom. He would wash her car every Friday, and Danielle had all these expectations of what a husband should do, and I failed them miserably. So for me, Danielle had to learn to communicate some of those things. You know, like, it's important for me. She'd say that you show, showing love for me means it looks like this, and so those are expectations. And also voicing your frustrations with your partner. I'm frustrated when you do this, and again, we can't mind read. I can't tell what my partner's thinking, so you need to voice them. Maybe voice them in a loving way
before they get you so upset that you can't communicate effectively anymore.
Yeah, and also learning to communicate effectively those needs. And again, we all have needs, and every relationship it breaks down when those needs aren't being met. So for most of us, we know that what our needs are, but we're not always, we know our needs, but our partner doesn't know what those needs are unless we communicate it. So again, learning to communicate what I hate using this term, fills your tank, right? Oh, that love language is like, yeah. But it's so true. The way that you feel loved, the way that you feel communicated with best, you have to learn to communicate those things that make you feel alive, that make you feel loved. So be willing to communicate those needs to your partner.
So the third one is acceptance, giving people space for personal growth at each person's own rate. So even though we are all united in marriage, we are still two separate people with separate desires, separate passions, separate gifts. We can't expect our partner to conform themselves to our desires, but we should allow them to blossom into the person that they were designed to be. So it's challenging sometimes, because I might want Tony to do things my way.
Because your way's the best way.
But I need to accept who he is, and the messy, chaotic, fun things that come along with who he is makes life more interesting. So that's who he is, and if I can accept that, then I can take some of the pressure off of me and him in my effort to control what I want him to do or be.
And that's actually been great advice for also raising kids.
Yeah,
like learning that this is who my kid is, and this is who they're becoming. And maybe I don't need to push my daughter to wear a skirt, or whatever. She's in this phase where she loves wearing like
Skater clothes.
Skater clothes and all that, won't wear a dress. And I'm just learning to embrace it. She's just such a cool little kid. And that she's accepting who she is. That's been big for us. Another thing is we've learned that it's important to fight fair. And I think so many times we get into these, so many of us in relationships, we'll get into these battles with each other. And a little small little hill would turn into this mountain. And we begin kind of throwing out words and phrases or name calling, or even the person becomes the problem. Like, it's no longer just Danielle, it's you are the issue. And so then we begin to attack and fight, and we're learning that in the middle of all of that, when you're in the middle of the fight, the disagreement, you begin leaning toward grace, and you show your partner the kind of grace you want to be shown. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I can't think
Okay.
of anything.
No. And lastly, for anyone in a relationship or wanting to be in one, whatever place you're in, whether it's like a friendship or family dynamics, love relationships, whatever, our hope is that you might remember it's a journey. It's fun, it's dynamic, it's frustrating, it's a journey. And you learn to show yourself grace, you forgive yourself, and you also learn to show your partner grace and forgive them and grow together. Because again, it's you're not marrying the person. You really are. You're marrying the journey. You're committed to the journey. And so my sister-in-law, so many years ago at our wedding, she stood up and she gave that quote. And I remember, like, it seemed like such a, did it mean that much to you? It didn't mean much to me.
I don't even know if I heard it, really. You're so consumed with so many things going on your wedding day. I think it took somebody repeating it to me weeks later.
Really?
Yeah. Huh. One of our friends who was officiating a wedding a few weeks later told us that they had heard some of the best advice ever at Tony and Danielle's wedding.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, which we couldn't even remember. We're like, right. Oh, right.
Yeah. I'm glad he repeated it, because otherwise we may have totally missed it.
But yeah, it's so true. And I remember thinking it's a cute Hallmark saying, but now 13 years later, I look back and I think, yeah, even though things sometimes are messy and there's arguments, there's frustration, there's also joy, there's also beauty there. But it's all part of the journey. And if you're committed to the journey, committed to the relationship, then I think that's when real growth and movement and change, beauty happens. And so today, whatever relationship you're in, may you be committed to the journey. And whatever issues and problems and things come up, our hope is that some of this advice might come through for you. You might find that it's really helpful. So anyways, blessings everyone, and we know this was a little bit short, but I thought it'd be so much fun today just to share some of that advice and for you to meet Danielle.
It's fun for me to be here. Never seen you do this before.
Awesome. Awesome. Everyone take care, and as always, we'll see you next week. And if you have any questions or comments, especially in regard to relationships, again, not that we are experts, but we have been through some things, and it's been 13 years, I guess. But send in some comments, some questions, thoughts, whatever it is, and we will see you next week. As always, please write a review or even go to my page, TonyWarfield.com. Blessings, everyone. Talk to you next week.